Hi, my name is Catherine D'Agostino, and just a little bit about me so you know who I am and why I made these videos. I work for Sunset Auto Group in sales and leasing. We have 16 dealerships throughout Bradenton, Sarasota, and Venice. And in working with buyers when people are buying cars, I've come to realize that a lot of people have preconceived ideas on how things work, and sometimes they really don't know how it works. And they make decisions based on their own ideas of how things work, and they don't always make the best decisions because they don't have all the information that they need to make a good decision. So that's why I decided to make this video and talk about these. There are lots of things, but I'm going to focus on three. These are the three biggest things that I have found over and over again, that people seem to have one idea when it really is a different way. And the first one right off the bat is down payment. A lot of people seem to think that they need a good sized chunk of money, a down payment, in order to buy a car. And yes, sometimes you do. But the thing is, when you go in thinking that, what happens is, let's say, for example, they say, oh, I'm waiting for my tax refund, and then when I get this refund, I'll have a little chunk of money, and then we're going to go buy a car. And let me give you an example. Let's say you got a $3,000 refund. You get your check in your hands, you say, okay, I'm going to go buy a car. And you go into a dealership, you drive around some cars, you find one you love, and you sit down with the salesperson and you start to work the numbers, and they're going to ask you some questions. They're going to ask you, what are you driving now? How much is your car payment? How much do you owe on your vehicle? Is it all paid off? How much money are you planning to put down today? So let's say in this example, you have $3,000, so you say $3,000, and they say, oh, good, great. So they work the numbers, the car payment is in your budget, you love the car, you buy the car, you drive away with the car, and you're happy, and that's the story. So what is wrong with that? Well, nothing. There's nothing really wrong with that, but I want to give you a different scenario. Let's suppose the exact same thing. You get your refund, it's $3,000. You go on to a dealership, you find a car that you like, and you sit down and you're going through those questions, same questions. What are you driving now? How much is your payment? And then when they say, what do you want to put down? What are you planning to put down today? Instead, even though we know you have the $3,000 to put down, let's just say instead you said, I'm not sure. Can I qualify with no money down? And if so, why don't you run the numbers both ways so I can see what my payment would be with no money down versus, money down. And so they go ahead and do that. Turns out you do qualify with no money down. And then they give you this chart, and you see $0 down, your payment is this. $1,000 down, your payment is this. $3,000 down, your payment is that. Then you look at those numbers and you go, wow, the difference between my payment, if I put $0 money down versus $3,000 down, is not that big. I could afford the payment either way. And all of a sudden you get to make the decision. And you say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to put no money down. I can still afford the payment. You buy the car, you drive home happy, but now you still have that tax refund that you have waited all year for, this chunk of money, and now you still have it. You have the car you want and you have the money. You can think about possibly getting that dental work that you've been putting off, that you need a chunk of money for but don't have the money for. You could go on a vacation. You could catch up on your bills. You could pay down some of your credit cards that are at a higher interest rate, or maybe just put the money in the bank and have yourself a cushion and give yourself the peace of mind and give yourself an emergency fund in case things come up, so you're not quite living so close to the edge day by day. The point is, that you need to make that decision. And when you walk in and say, yes, I'm putting $3,000 down, all of a sudden you do that and everything is great, but now you realize you didn't even know that you had the option to keep the money and get the car. So that's point number one, down payment. Number two, I hear this so many times. A lot of people seem to think that they will either get a better interest rate if they go to their own bank or their own credit union than they will from the dealership, or if they have borderline credit, they feel like they'll have a better chance of qualifying by going to their own bank. And the truth is, no and no. First, let's talk about interest rates. The banking industry is very highly regulated, and if you bank at a certain bank, they cannot offer you one rate if you apply directly through them and a different rate if you apply through the dealership. They have to offer the same rate across the board. So if you go to a dealership and they work with that bank, they're going to get the exact same rate that you would if you went there yourself. So obviously, get it all done while you're at the dealership. It's so much easier than making a second trip and doing all the paperwork yourself and putting all of that together and then going back to the dealership to get the car. But more importantly than that is, the truth is, 9 times out of 10, you can actually get a better rate through the dealership. Now, not from your own bank, because again, it has to be the same. But what happens is the dealership works with dozens and dozens of lenders. And when they're trying to get you financing, they're going to submit to a handful of lenders that they feel are the best fit for you. And whoever comes back with the best rate, that's where they're planning to place you. And the chances that the bank that you happen to do your banking with is the absolute lowest rate out there is very slim. The truth is, they are going to find a bank that has a lower rate because they are constantly scouring these banks looking for the best possible rates. Banks maybe you haven't heard of, maybe you have, but that's what they do all day long. You don't shop rates all the time for purchasing cars. They are so much more efficient at it, and it's to their benefit. The better rate they get for their customers, the more cars they will sell. They are very motivated to get you the best possible rate. Now let's talk about qualifying. Sometimes when people have borderline credit or they're not so sure about their credit, they think that, well, I have a better chance of getting approved if I go to the company where I do my banking, where I have my accounts with, and I have a relationship with them. The truth is no. And I'm going to tell you a personal story. This is a true story, and this is about me. And this is how I learned this lesson. I learned it before I even got into this business. After my divorce, my credit was a nightmare. And I worked for a couple of years trying to build it back up, getting credit cards, paying them on time, doing all of that stuff. I needed a new car. I was driving a very old car and I was running out of time. My credit wasn't where I wanted it to be, but I was running out of time. I needed to get a vehicle. So I did not want to go through the emotional embarrassment and roller coaster ride of going to a dealership, spending a half a day, picking out a car, driving the car, falling in love with it, only to find out at the end, oh, we're sorry, you're declined. I was just horrified by that thought. So instead, what I thought I'd do is, well, I'm going to test the waters. I am going to go to my credit union, and somebody told me that, it's easier to qualify for loans through a credit union. I don't know where that information came from, but somebody had told me that, so I joined a credit union. I went to my credit union and I applied for an auto loan. And I said, I picked a number out of the blue, $15,000. I thought, yeah, that seems like a safe number. I can get a decent car, not a great car, but based on my situation, that just randomly seemed like a good number. I went to the credit union and I said, I want to apply for an auto loan. They said, how much? I said, $15,000 maybe. And they pulled my credit, and he took a look at my credit and he said, oh, well, your score's not that bad. You should probably qualify for, I think it was 5.8%. And I was ecstatic. I was like, wow, yes, I can get approved. And yes, the interest rate is in single digits. And on the lower side of that, I was like thrilled to death because I had been working so hard to get to the point where I could get a better car and get financed. So they said, well, it takes a couple days to get the formal approval, but blah, blah, blah. You'll hear back from us in a couple days. Couple days go by, and then I get the phone call. Oh, Mrs. D'Agostino, we're really sorry, but, your loan was declined. It was declined in underwriting for blah, 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 whatever reasons. And I was horrified. I thought, oh my gosh, my car is ready to die. It's so bad. And now what am I going to do? I'm never going to get financed. I don't know. I don't have that much money to pay cash for a car. What happened was, about a month later, my car bit the dust. I mean, it was horrible. And I found myself on a dealership lot looking at cars thinking, I don't know, maybe what can I get for cash? I'm not going to be able to get finance, blah, blah, blah. And the salesman said to me, let's take a look at a couple cars. I know you don't think you can get finance, but let's take a look and see what we see. And sure enough, guess what happened? I found a great car in my price range, and I got approved on a loan, and guess who I got approved through? The exact same credit union at the exact same rate, 5.8%. It got pushed right through from the dealership. When I sat there at the credit union myself, I got declined. So you need to understand, dealerships have a lot of clout with the lenders. They give them a lot of business. If anyone can get your loan approved, they will get it approved. They have a lot more clout than you do. Your best chance, if you're worried about approval, your best chance is to go to a dealership and submit it through the dealership, because the dealership will get on the phone and they will fight for you. And they can get away with that because they are sending them a lot of business, and the lenders will sit up and listen to what they have to say. Okay, the third fact that I want to give you has to do with actually if you have bad credit or shaky credit or borderline credit or not as great credit as you wish you had. And normally, there's always a segment of the market that is in this area. And the reason that I'm bringing this up in this video is because that segment has greatly expanded in the last 5 to 7 years. There are many, many people out there that were really hit by the economy. They'd had a job for years and they lost their job. They've always had stellar credit, and all of a sudden their life was thrown into turmoil. And now it's a few years later, they've gotten back on their feet, they got another job, they're stable again. But guess what? It's a few years later, it's time to buy a car, and now their credit is not what it always was. And I so feel for these people. And if this is you, please listen to what I'm saying, because especially the people that are new to having shaky credit, you do not, first of all, don't feel bad or embarrassed, and everyone does. And, here I am putting out to the world, oh, I had terrible credit. That's a hard thing to admit. And if I can do it out here on this video, then you can tell 1 or 2 people that can really help you. Here's my advice to you. Don't make assumptions about what you can or can't do with your current situation. Because you know what? You don't know. And don't listen to your brother-in-law who tried to get finance for a truck 6 months ago, and he's going to tell you this, and other people are going to tell you that, and your score is this. So everybody has something to say. Nobody really knows. And the truth is, even I don't know. I sell cars all day long to people with good credit and bad credit and everywhere in between. And when you sit down at my desk for the first time and I talk to you, I have no idea. The only person that really knows is the finance manager, because that's all they do. All day long, they finance cars, and they know all the nuances. They know they can look at all of the specifics of your situation. Just because your score is this doesn't mean you qualify for that. Just so you know, there's no generic. Don't listen to that. And please don't make assumptions based on what you think or what you've heard. I don't care what you think. Try to throw that all out the window and go straight to the source and find out what you can or can't do. And otherwise, I'm telling you, you will make bad decisions. You will base it on things that don't make any sense. I mean, look at the example I just gave you. It was based on an assumption, oh, if I can't qualify with my credit union, then surely I'm not going to qualify anywhere. Well, that was totally wrong. And I spent a month driving around in a car that reeked of gasoline that was probably ready to explode into a pile of flames at any moment. And I carried my kids in that car because I didn't think I had any options and didn't even know that all along I could have just gone to a dealership and gotten financed right away with the exact same credit union, you know. So those are my 3 points. I really hope if you just got one little nugget of something that you didn't know, then I'd be really happy. The 3 points are: don't automatically assume that you need to put a down payment down. Find out if you can do it without, and then you decide. Number 2, forget about going to your credit union or your bank. Just get financed through the dealership. They can do at least as good as you can do, in most cases much better than you can do, and it's so much easier too. And number 3 is, if you have bad credit, please do not make assumptions. Go to the source, have someone sit down with you, find out what you can and actually can't do before you make decisions. Thank you so much. I wish you the absolute best of luck in shopping for a car, and I hope that you found this helpful. Have a wonderful day.